Good. All right, we're starting the meeting here. Welcome, everybody, to the 2025 Sustainability Commission retreat. We're very excited to have everybody here. I am the new chair of the commission. My name is Mitra Gruwell. We have Alexi Miller starting as the vice chair. And are we gonna go around and do introductions?
Let's do that after.
After, should we do
The
the
land acknowledgement and then minutes and stuff.
Okay.
Public comment and then do introductions.
Sorry for me not knowing the order. It's my first time doing this. Okay. So I'll hand it over to Alexi for the land acknowledgement.
All right, so the city of Eugene has they call it the interim land acknowledgement. I'm not sure how long it will be interim, but it is at the moment. And what the Sustainability Commission has done for the last couple of years is supplement that with actionable things that are happening relevant to Native people here in our local area that are an opportunity for us to learn, participate, take action. That said, as we start the year, I did want to read the interim standard land acknowledgement for the beginning of the year, and then I actually have some customized stuff too. So, since time immemorial, the Kalapuya people have been the indigenous stewards to our region, building dynamic communities, maintaining balance with wildlife, and enacting sustainable land practices. Land acknowledgement is a way of resisting the erasure of indigenous histories and to honor Native communities by inviting truth and reconciliation. Following treaties between 1851 and 1855, Kalapuya people were dispossessed of their indigenous homeland by the United States government and forcibly removed to the Coast Reservation in Western Oregon. As we consider the impacts of colonization, we also acknowledge the strength and resiliency of displaced indigenous people. The city of Eugene is built within the traditional homelands known as Kalapuya Ilihi. Kalapuya descendants are citizens of the Confederated Tribes of Grand Ronde Community of Oregon and the Confederated Tribes of Siletz Indians of Oregon. They continue to make contributions in our communities here and across the lands. We express our respect for the inherent political sovereignty of all federally recognized tribal nations and indigenous people who live in the state of Oregon and across the nation. A couple of specific things happening in the near future. First off, the Eugene 4J, School District 4J Natives Powwow, that's the local K-12 Indigenous program. Natives is an acronym that I don't recall and didn't write down. That powwow is taking place at Bailey Hill School on Saturday, September 27th. I believe it starts at noon, but I could be wrong. Monday, October 13th is Indigenous Peoples Day, previously known as Columbus Day to some, but here is Indigenous Peoples Day. There will be events across Eugene, notably at the University of Oregon Museum of Natural and Cultural History, which is free all day and has specific exhibits up there. There's also events up in OSU in Corvallis. And then third, the Don Dexter Gallery Eugene Dental Sleep Center is sponsoring and hosting free Indigenous movie nights at the Holt Center. So coming up, they're on Wednesdays at 6, doors at 6, movies at 6:30. September 24th, we got Real Injun. October 15th, Barking Water. November 5th, Rumble, Indians Who Rocked the World. And those all 6:30 movie panel discussion follows. They're all free. There you are.
Excellent. Thank you.
The other bonus is this one is probably longer because I read the entire standard acknowledgement. But having done that, we usually try to get that rolling for the session by having a couple folks volunteer in advance to say, I'll look up a couple things that are happening in the next month or so. That might be a little longer than most because it's, October 13th is Indigenous People Day. There's more stuff going on right around now. But if a couple folks want to say, yeah, I'll take October, November, then we'll be set for a couple months so we can do it again this next time. Anyone interested?
I could do November.
Remind me of our October meeting date.
It is October 15th.
You happy to do it?
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does anybody want to sign up for January? I know it's a ways out.
We can sign up for January.
Cool.
And I just wanted to give credit to Laura, who kind of started this new tradition in the Sustainability Commission a couple years back. I think it's really cool. I've learned so much more and just, it's really sparked my curiosity, some of this stuff, and I think it's been really interesting to do this research and like become a little more connected to some of these cultures and events and yeah, so thank you.
And just to clarify, that's just like looking up events, not the acknowledgement itself.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. We do the looking up and sharing of activations and events
Okay.
in lieu of the
Mhm.
traditional.
Right.
Knowledge.
Okay.
I just add one thing, some people have like brought like history,
Yeah.
it doesn't have to just be events, people have
Okay.
brought poetry, like,
Mhm.
it's very broad, but it's,
Okay.
the intention is to connect with kind of indigenous person, uplift and whatever we can.
Okay, great.
And I'd
Thank
like
you.
to add one thing onto that too, since it's a lot of new people. It's nice when there's an event, if there's a link, if you can provide a link to Danielle for like whatever it is, so if we want to attend or whatever, we can just go and click on the link in the agenda. And also the agendas are posted, so if someone was actually reading our agenda,
Should that occur?
they could go in and also click on those links and get the information. So just a gentle reminder.
Thank you. Next, I believe we are going to review and approve the agenda in June meeting minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
So, I do think there was an amendment that needs to be made or a correction.
Okay.
I'm listed as both voting in favor and abstaining in the votes around the gas power leaf blower rental, and so I abstain.
You abstain? Okay. Thank you for that clarification. Do you want to state your?
Yeah, and I'll state that I wasn't there and I was listed as voting when I wasn't present.
Okay.
I'll make those corrections.
Thank you. So with these corrections, do we have a motion to approve?
We can approve them separately,
Oh,
agenda and
okay.
then minutes.
The meeting minutes from June?
So moved.
Second.
Okay, so that all in favor? Okay, it looks like unanimous.
Okay.
Approval, and then do we have a motion to approve the agenda? Was it the agenda and June meeting minutes or agenda for?
Yeah, tonight's agenda.
Tonight's agenda.
Move to approve.
Okay.
All right, all in favor? All right, unanimous. Yes. Okay, thank you. And do we have to ask you to do this housekeeping thing? Oh, sorry. Well, just.
The
we-
general gist is this is a public meeting, it's being recorded. If anyone wants to submit public comment and they weren't able to do so, they can contact staff
Okay.
and. I'll remember to bring that script next time.
Maybe it's just a little, that's a retreat,
Yeah.
perhaps.
Sounds good. Yeah.
Okay, and is there any public comment or?
There's, I don't believe there's anyone joining virtually, but there were 3 messages received over the summer / today. So the first one, the first one was from Elizabeth Lindstrom on August 20th. She is from Ward 8. And she was happy to see that the commission had sent a memo to city council about restricting the use of gas powered leaf blowers and wanted to just continue to raise that that's a concern for her.
Okay.
There was also a message received from Alan McQueen, who's from Ward 2, inviting the commission to come do outreach and table at the Friendly Area Neighbors block party this Saturday, September 20th. And then there was a message received today from Danny Noonan, who is not a Eugene resident. who wanted the commission to consider for their FY 26 work plan to address greenhouse gas emissions in Eugene's buildings as a priority area of focus. He stated that Eugene desperately needs, heat pump based electrification and weatherization retrofits, and believes that city-owned buildings is a place to start.
Just to clarify on that one, he did note that he was representing Breach.
You're right.
Just, I know you said he wasn't.
You're right. I didn't,
resident, but-
yeah, he's from climate energy. He's a climate energy labor strategist with Breach Collective, based in Eugene and Portland. And he's a former Eugene resident, so.
And do we open it up for commissioners to comment on these?
I actually saw that there was another one at 4:30.
Oh, I don't see.
Was that the one from?
Miss Thompson.
Oh, I don't see this one.
Yeah, I did. I read that.
Okay, so there was
Similar.
another one received from Raven Thompson. She's from Ward 7. She's representing Beyond Toxics and would also urge the commission to address greenhouse gas emissions in Eugene's buildings.
I think she had to focus on low income and
No.
disadvantaged.
Okay, specifically focusing on low and moderate income residential retrofits.
Any comments or on these? Comments? Comments on the comment?
Well, are you interested in comments in support or against or
It's just-
discussion?
Yeah, discussion or any, if that person or that group that had presented the comment to us. Well, thank you. At first, I'd just like to thank them. They're not here, but they could be watching this video. For submitting their comments to the Sustainability Commission, so thank you for doing that. And then if commissioners have any comments or, yeah, yes.
In the building topics, I'm wondering if some of that could fit under home energy score policy options.
I was just wondering if we could discuss it more when we get into the
Yeah, when we
planning.
get there.
Yeah, we
Yeah.
can.
Yeah, it is noted that 2 of the 4 were referenced in the same. Well, let's see.
Yeah, the one about the leaf blowers, basically the gist of the comment was, thanks for doing that, don't drop it. I'm not quite sure how we don't drop it if city council sees the information we provided and says, got it, and does nothing else. Okay, it may be a topic that comes up in reference to one of these other things. But I'm not sure that we'll be able to do a whole effort like
Another
we
round.
did on that, another round, yeah. But I suppose that remains to be seen as we do the work plan, where that would pop in.
Okay. Are we finished discussing the comments, public comments?
Does anyone, I guess, are we also gonna talk,
Introduction.
scheduling, I was thinking like, is anyone aiming to go to the Friendly Block Party on this Saturday?
Oh,
That's coming up pretty soon.
Yeah,
It's a pretty tight turnaround for something.
Yeah.
I can't do
Um,
it this Saturday. I would
Is
consider-
anybody interested and available in tabling at that event? Okay,
I am attending the event, but will not be able to table because I've got to do other stuff, but I can convey to the friendly area neighbors that you appreciated the invitation. And if in future years would love to be able to
You
attend.
could wear a sign that says sustainability.
and,
You won't
Ask
be able
me
to go
about
anyway.
and just for those of you that are new to the commission, we have been attending some of these neighborhood events and doing presentations and answering questions and just becoming more visible to the community through these events, but it is challenging sometimes to schedule for these, so we'll talk about that when we get to the Education and Outreach Committee. But thank you for passing that, yeah,
Is it feasible to drop off any of our documents without actually maintaining a table? Anything like that? Or something unhelpful because there's no context to it.
Can I speak to that? So as someone who just ran one of these neighborhood association picnics last weekend, no.
Okay.
Because there's really just not a lot of space for.
Okay.
Cause they'll have their own table, but it'll be full of their stuff and then. There's nobody to talk to,
Sounds fine to me.
yeah.
Great. So be it.
All right, so are we gonna move on to introductions? Should I start? Oh, Alexi?
Do you wanna introduce it?
Oh, the icebreaker, yes, but I forgot what. Is it literally that?
Literally that.
Oh, okay, I thought we had something. Sure, okay, so yeah, we're gonna each take 2 minutes, to introduce yourself and explain what brings you here? Why are you here on the Sustainability Commission? We will have time to talk about the specific topics we're gonna cover, not that you can't cover them in your 2 minutes, but it's intro time, right? What drives you? Why are you here? What strengths and experiences will you be bringing to this commission?
You wanna start?
Sure, be happy to. So I am Alexi Miller. I was actually born near that grapevine. Here in Eugene.
This pretty.
Well, that's great, yeah. And I'm lucky enough to be raising my children here in town as well. And so that generational view is informing what I'm doing here, which is trying to help create a sustainable community for future generations and theirs. And that I work at a policy-oriented nonprofit working on greenhouse gas conservation policy topics. But it's not only that wonky stuff, I get into the building stuff more, sure, because I kind of know it more, but I'm also interested in some other sustainability stuff, trees, aquatic, waterway and river topics. And, if you look at the environmental impacts, it's not all environmental sustainability for me, but that's my main lens I'm coming with. The impacts of how we live in Eugene on the place we live, transportation's a lot of that, and there's more than just the energy. So the energy is the thing I tend to look at first from my own experience, but this has been valuable to me in the last 2 years to be able to expand that in a more informed way and start talking about urban forestry and transportation and waste and some of that other cool stuff. So that's a little bit of my framing, and I really like riding down the bike path on the way to elementary school in the mornings and seeing if we can see any interesting birds. I guess you get confirmed middle-aged when you can pick out a merganser from a duck. So.
Thank you, Alexi. Yeah?
Yeah, Jan Fillinger, not to confuse with Jen. And I was,
To get us confused.
yeah. I grew up in Switzerland, and that influenced a lot of, me and what I bring to my life also, but I've lived in the States for a long, long time, since the 70s, 79. My wife is a social worker. I have 2 kids that are grown. They're in Portland, and they both one has a child and the other will have the child very soon in February. And the other has a second one on the way. And so I've been working in sustainable design for a long, long time. I studied that at Berkeley, and I was always interested in making the buildings just a little bit better and educate people just a little more. Even if they don't say they want, energy efficiency or sustainability, we kind of try to bring that in. And I think we're able to oh, sorry, I meant to say I'm an architect. And so I'm designing buildings, and I'm always looking at how we can reduce carbon emissions. And in a way, you were saying it's not all energy and it's not all trees and it's not all water, but in fact, for me, I think of it, it's definitely all carbon. And the Carbonese life. And I'm really inspired to be able to, I've done it for such a long time, yet I still feel passionately about the work that we have to do, and it's actually getting harder and harder, but we have to not lose faith and still be passionate about it. And that's what I want to bring to it, and hopefully I can help here.
Thank you. Well, my name is Mitra Gruel. I, similarly to you, came here originally because I wanted to use my powers of design and creativity for the purpose of waste diversion. So I'm an upcycle fashion designer. I also am the community engagement coordinator for the Materials Exchange Center for Community Arts. So it's like a thrift store for waste materials used for artistic purposes. I produce fix-it fairs for the city and the county, so using repair to divert waste. I do a lot of education. I run a nonprofit that teaches industrial sewing using upcycling to people recovering from homelessness, and have an industrial sewing makerspace. So I really work in the intersection of design and creativity and sustainability. And I really am very passionate and empowered by the idea that we can harness people's creativity to come up with solutions and ideas. We definitely need them for reaching these goals that we're seeking. I'm also a mom and a grandma, and so I'm very motivated to create a better future and world here in Eugene and everywhere for future generations of humans, plants, animals, everything, nature, earth. So
You say molds?
molds too.
Yeah.
I didn't say it.
I thought I heard you. It's good.
I should have said molds. Lichens, mosses, and molds. Thank you.
And algae.
Oh yeah, sorry, algae.
I'm Eliza Kaczynski. I am the Eugene City Council, I guess, representative on this committee. I represent Ward 1, which is downtown, friendly neighbors, Jefferson West Side, that area. I got on council in January, so I'm in my first year of being on council. This was one of the committees that I was assigned to by the mayor. It's one of 4 standing committees, and I'm on a couple of ad hocs as well. So a lot of my role here is to kind of help bring perspective of what's going on in council to you all, to help bring highlight what you all are working on to the rest of council. I would say before I was on council, I was on the Eugene Budget Committee for quite some time, but also Layton County Planning Commission. And I actually got my start on being on committees with the Active Transportation Committee in Eugene. And so a lot of my work sort of as an advocate was surrounding transportation, particularly active transportation and land use, in a way that there was a lot of overlap with sustainability, and how do we, specifically looking at land use and transportation, create environments in our community that are sustainable. And so that's a little bit where I got started with this, so.
Thank you.
I'm Laura Allen. For work, I work for a small nonprofit. We do water conservation and education with reusing water. My background is in education and environmental science. And I also do science journalism and say right for young audience about science and stuff. I'm especially interested in sanitation, water, carbon, all of the sustainability things. And I'm on another kind of national standards committee, so I do a lot with site codes and policies on that in the water sphere.
Cool. Hi, everyone. I'm Lily Yao, and I'm a senior at South Eugene High School. So I was first introduced to the Sustainability Commission by former Mayor Venice, who, was hoping to gain a youth perspective on the commission. And so she suggested I seek appointment to the commission. And so I joined November of 2023. For me, as a young person who's grown up in Eugene my whole life, it's kind of about educating myself, but also learning how I can bring a bit of a youth perspective, especially when I think about my future, you know, for the next several decades, hopefully. And yeah, I've also, this is going to be my 4th year with Our Future, which is a statewide, climate justice organization that I interned with. And with them, I worked on like educating myself about legislative policy, educating other youth and community members. We've worked with Oregon Educators for Climate Education, for example, and they recently got a bill passed, working on district level action within schools and also cafeteria waste reduction. So happy to be here.
I'm Courtney Griesel. I have been living in Eugene for almost 20 years. I'm not gonna tell you how long Lane County, because then I'll start to date myself. But I first and foremost, I'm a community member here and a mom, and my husband, our lives are here. So for me, it was a discussion around, is there a role to play in this space? Because there's actually a nexus between sort of careers I've had in the past and now, and where we are today. So my background is primarily in land use and then public sector economic development. I had an opportunity to come over and I work for a manufacturer now. And we spend a lot of time in the sustainability and resilience space. So we're a wood products company and forest land manager. And I had an opportunity to talk with a city councilor who said, you know, you're talking about a lot of these topics. Would you be open to this appointment and bring this lens into the space? And I thought, absolutely. I've had some experience in the past with some international work, working with communities struggling through resilience issues at a very ground level, very basic needs. And so I also feel like I have that privilege of being able to kind of see disparity on a very large range and think about impacts with some broad lenses. And so it's been an experience, and it's been interesting and fun to kind of hear how we wrestle with things here, and also what I can bring to the table as somebody that represents a manufacturer that is sometimes in the application role, trying to operate in an environment that's, you know, desiring of a really important and healthy place. So that's why I'm here.
Thank you.
Hello, my name's Emily Reynolds. I'm sorry I had my name tag backwards there for a while. I'm really excited to be here. I have been a Eugene resident for 14 years. I moved here from North Carolina. I am the Director of Education and Outreach at a very well-known environmental nonprofit here locally called Bring. Mitra and I's background or experience, knowledge base, you know, overlaps quite a bit. We are in the waste space. I started there as a K-12 educator, so I'm informal educator going into the classrooms, teaching children about waste, recycling, reuse, product life cycle. I took hundreds of student tours of you know, seeing our transfer station and our short mountain landfill. So when I think about sustainability, you know, that word to me means for the kids, right? It's all that we are doing in this room feels like it's for the next generation. You know, obviously we'll have some benefits for our lifetimes as well, but it's always about leaving it better than you found it. And that's really why I am here, wanting to collaborate with you all. Additionally, I have worked with businesses. So in my role now at Bring, I also work with all Lane County businesses doing free technical assistance. So we work with businesses on a range of sustainability behaviors and practices, and we help them look at their equipment. And our you know, philosophy is that we meet people where they are. Everybody has a different starting point and entry point and motivations for, you know, broaching some of these topics and taking a harder look at, you know, their own behaviors. And So I do think that I can bring that perspective of, you know, some of the feedback that I've received from businesses over the years, so. Thank you.
Right. My name is Jan Bowman, the other Jan. And I, excuse me. Let's see, if I say how long I've lived here, then I really will date myself. It's a long time. It shocks me even to say now. I grew up in the suburbs of Chicago, moved out here to finish college and just fell in love with it and have been here ever since. And I think I originally just come at the love of this place from being in nature, being on rivers, being on the bike path, just loving that aspect of this community. And I spent pretty much my entire professional career with the city of Eugene, doing a variety of jobs throughout the organization, finishing up in the city manager's office the last 10 so years and doing community relations work. And it was there when the climate recovery ordinance was being developed and some of this work was begun when Mayor, oh God, started way back in the beginning with the Sustainable Business Initiative and all of that. And I was helping to do the PR about that, and we were so proud of ourselves. And so much of my work was being a champion for Eugene and touting the things that we were doing and feeling great about that. And so didn't do much of this kind of work when I was working but once I retired, I wanted to get more involved in doing actual advocacy for trying to accomplish the goals that we've set and trying to continue to be the environmental leader that we see ourselves as. So I'm a mom and hope to be a grandma soon. And so we're, we do have to leave it better than we found it. I agree with that.
Thanks, Jan.
Yeah.
I'm Devin Mann, and I was just thinking, when did you join?
I started the school in 2023.
Was it? Was it 22? I feel like it was 22. I came like right around the same time
2023.
as Daniel. Was it 2023? Anyway, I'm like Alexi, I'm a rare native Eugenian. And I'm also a former research biologist turned educator, and I've taught from genetics to ecology to middle schoolers at U of O, at OSU, and community college, and all different levels, and developed a lot of curriculum. And I feel I was appointed by Counselor Matt Keating through my interactions with him as being an active member of the Southeast Neighbors Board for 5 years, which I just resigned. Very excited about that. It was a good long run. And I started a committee on that board and called the Environmental Stewardship Committee. And that's when I became actually aware with Matt would come to these meetings and goes, hey, there's this thing because we didn't know. Called the Sustainability Commission. I'm like, well, everyone should know about this. And he appointed me, and I thought I will bring my science background and combined with my education and volunteering experiences where I have to speak to people coming from a wide variety of places, knowledge bases and experiences. And when you're teaching science, you're trying to teach something pretty complicated. And just in a nutshell, my philosophy that I bring with me to this commission is I don't necessarily think we need what people are always telling us is like, we need more people in STEM. We need more people who know about STEM. We don't need actually tons and tons of more people working in the science field because there's not jobs for them. But if everybody knew more about very basic levels of science, even biology, their own biology, I feel like then you can make this next step to understanding about sustainability and why it's important. So that's really what brings me to this commission, is to see how I can have an impact. And I do tend to look at things in a pretty like science-y way, and Jan is usually kind of good at like getting the human in me to come out a little bit more. But so anyway, that's what brings me here.
Thank you, Devin. Do you and Ian want to?
Yeah. Yeah, I can go. Hi, everyone. I'm Danielle Thinkabell. I'm the climate policy analyst with the city of Eugene on the sustainability program. And part of that role is serving as the staff liaison for the Sustainability Commission. I've been in this role about 2.5 years, and prior to that, my background really is in like sustainable purchasing, sustainable land management practices. I worked in parks for a long time. I worked on organic farms. I designed sustainable food service programs. And a lot of that throughout all of it, I've read was like engagement and bringing the community along and stuff. So yeah, I really enjoy working with this commission, and I'll talk a little bit more about my role and how I can support you guys later in the meeting.
I'm Ian Penn, and I'm the sustainability manager for the city. I've been here about 3 years, just over 3 years, for this. I actually moved here from Virginia, so moved here from the East Coast. Similar to Danielle, kind of the backup liaison for the commission. And then I think our program really focuses on implementation and oversight of our climate action plan for the city. I have sort of a diverse and eclectic background before I came here. Immediately previous to this job, I actually worked for a clean tech startup focusing on vehicle grid, really focusing on the manufacturing side, supply chain, that sort of thing, and then spent a lot of years as a consultant, primarily working for the federal government. So I've really done environmental work in some way, shape, or form for pretty much my entire sort of professional career.
All right, thank you, everyone. I think we're just a little bit ahead of schedule, which is pretty exciting.
Nice job keeping it to 2 minutes.
Yeah. That's usually takes longer.
Without a buzzer.
I know.
Yeah. So I think Danielle and I are gonna give a little, or,
Yeah, Ian will get the PowerPoint pulled up,
okay,
and then we have a little PowerPoint
yes.
to get together.
So we're just gonna, through this PowerPoint, present and kind of revisit the why of this commission. I think it's always fun at retreats to start, like, reflect back on like why the body exists and kind of what our roles are. And just some getting on the same page and clarification on that stuff. So we'll go through that, and then, are we having a break after that?
No, then we're gonna look at review the FY24 annual report,
Okay,
and then there'll be a break.
okay. And then we'll get into the fun stuff of like going over our work for this upcoming year, so.
FY24 annual report, yeah,
So the overview of the Sustainability Commission. Yeah, I think we can go to the next. Is there anything else? I think we can go to the next slide. Yeah. Okay, so as most of you have read or know, the commission was started in 2007 from the Sustainable Business Initiative that Jan referenced. Task Force, which was formal recommendation to establish a sustainability commission. So I'm going on my 5th year on the commission, and I think Laura has been here a long time. 7, oh my goodness. Wow.
Well, no, I don't know.
I've been about the same time as Laura.
Yeah, we're the.
Okay. Excellent. And I thought you and I came on at the same time, but I guess not. Okay. Well, yeah, so we've seen involvement. I came on right during COVID times, and things were a little wonky everywhere at that time. We lost all of our staff, and so we were kind of like operating willy-nilly. I was new, so I was like, I don't know what's going on. But I have been really inspired and excited to see some kind of evolutions happen about the way that we work here on this commission. And basically, I've noticed that we've had some changes that have evolved and come about, which is we have kind of gotten more lean with our committees. So basically, the way that we work is we get presentations at our meetings, which we'll vote on today. And then we also have committees. And we've kind of limited our committee work to 3, just so we can really dig into the topic. We're trying to be more tactful about the timing that we're producing material and sending it over to the city council, and having really like functional, engaging outcomes from this committee work. I think this year we're gonna introduce a template for documents that we're working on through the committees. Historically, over the last few years, we've been producing documents that have both gone as recommendations or just informational to the city council, but also we've developed this kind of ongoing committee called the Education and Outreach Committee, which came about as a recognition that the Sustainability Commission plays the role as a liaison between the public, Eugene residents, and the city council. So we need to be interacting with the public intentionally as a commission to kind of gain that perspective that we can incorporate into our body knowledge of these topics and in reflect on as we produce these recommendations to council. So, oh yeah, sorry.
Change the next slide.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to read. We'll move to goals.
Yeah. So basically our current goals as a commission are to align with the CAP 2.0. That's our driving document in force that has very clear goals that the city and city council are working towards. We also like to address current initiatives that are focused on in city council. So we are interested in being very relevant to one thing that we've kind of seen over the past is if we're bringing topics or information, even though it might be related to saying sustainability, but to city council, if it's not related to their work, it doesn't really get the attention that, you know, we put a lot of work into these things. So we're looking to get it recognized at least and be relevant. And then strengthen community engagement. And again, we try to do this through the Education and Outreach Committee and producing these, doing these events. And hopefully we can come up with some more ideas this upcoming year about how we can continue that journey. And also just talking to community about topics of sustainability, clarifying and understanding of things and communicating back to them, like what the city and the city council are working on as relates to sustainability. So those are our three main goals for our work. And then, oh,
No,
wait, what's
back
going on?
to objectives page.
There we go. Okay, so our objectives are to deepen the understanding of local emission reduction opportunities. And that's with us and related to people who are doing this work. So we get these presentations from people doing this work. So we're getting, like, I love this part of the Sustainability Commission. We're getting these presentations and we get to hear like from the horse's mouth what's happening. Learning about existing projects, resources, and initiatives also related to these presentations we get. And we at times get to provide input on projects that are in development. And I think that's kind of an exciting new role that we started playing where we're getting asked questions that we can use our collective knowledge to help inform the direction of some of these projects. We also get to advocate for initiatives that reduce emissions while advancing social equity and economic benefits. And so that's referencing the triple bottom line that we're always holding conscious in the work that we do. We get to engage with the community to better represent diverse perspectives to council. So again, that's when we're bringing perspectives that we're hearing in our walks of life, in our jobs, in our personal life, at these outreach events and bringing that into the work that we do. And then sharing accurate information about projects and programs with the public. So as we all know, there's rules about the way in which we do this as personal individuals and or as sustainability commissioners. If we're speaking on behalf of the commission, we have to make sure we're saying things that are approved by the commission. So, and those are our goals and objectives. So I'll hand it over to you.
Are you gonna share this slideshow, or did you and I missed it?
Ian can email it out right now. It's the PDF of it is in.
I don't need it now, I just.
We can.
We can share it.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so moving on to the next slide. Yeah, so So thanks, Mitra. So I'm just gonna go over a few things, as, you know, for many of you, this might just be a refresher, but, I hope this just can help frame the conversation, you know, as we begin this new fiscal year together. So, in terms of roles and, you know, expectations, the chair is meant to facilitate the meetings, you know, ensure all viewpoints are heard, minimize, you know, unproductive discussion or repetitive discussion. The chair is also responsible for representing the commission to city council and to the mayor, and ensuring alignment with the work plan. Commissioners, the expectation is to come prepared to meetings, so really that just means read the packet that I send you. I send out the packet usually the week before, so make sure you go through that. Work cooperatively together, listen to each other, ask questions to staff, provide feedback. With committees, it's not required to participate in committees, but typically those happen during the work week. And, you know, typically we've found that that's why we land on 3 is 2 or 3, because if there's more, it's just the commissioners don't exactly have that bandwidth. And the hope is that commissioners will serve as chairs of the committees, so it doesn't all fall on Mitra and Alexi. In terms of the council representative, Councilor Kaczynski's role, the value she brings is sharing, you know, the current focus areas and perspectives of city, you know, that's going on at city council. She can provide insight into how something might be received by city council, you know, among the other priorities that they are, or, you know, among the other topics and agenda items that they're grappling with. She can help, she typically at the end of the meeting, when we do the updates, will identify items of interest that are coming up on council's agenda, so you can, you know, flag those and watch those work sessions. And, as she mentioned earlier, you know, there are opportunities for her to sometimes highlight the work that's happening here to city council. And in terms of my role, so I provide administrative support to this body. It's pretty like technical, so ensuring adherence to the code and bylaws, facilitating in sort of a technical and professional way that communication with city council, and, you know, providing advice around those areas. So, those are the roles. In terms of how, I thought a lot about this slide and how to sort of, what I've seen from my perspective in terms of how I see the commission being most effective. So this is sort of through my lens. First is just like focusing the attention on a narrow work plan that's defined in scope and like achievable. You know, picking topics that are relevant, that align with CAP 2.0, that align with work that council's already working on or staff is already working on. For emerging topics, you know, either because something, you know, an emerging event or project is happening in Eugene, or an emerging area of interest that someone on the commission has. There's room for those sometimes, but I think it's really important to assess if it's relevant and like the timeliness of it and how it fits into some of those other areas of focus. For learning, like learn from staff, learn from each other, learn from community members, like learn to understand what the projects are and like dive into the details to understand them, learn from community members so you can understand their perspectives on some of these issues. I think as a commissioner, your role isn't just to represent yourself and your own interests, but to represent the community. And then finally advise. So, you know, once you've done that, once there's a narrow focus and once you've dived in and done the details, then, you know, share your feedback, provide recommendations, share information with council, and I can help, you know, sort of technically frame like how that liaison and communication can happen too. So, yeah. And then, the last slide that I just wanted to share is, so impact. So I wanted to share a few of the tangible ways that I've seen the commission have an impact over the last few years. And my point with this is that like your success and your impact shouldn't just be measured by whether council or staff are doing exactly what you said or exactly what was recommended in the letter. I think recognize that the commission is one voice out of many voices. that are considered when council's making decisions and, you know, evaluating their work sessions. And regardless if they do exactly the thing you said, you are still helping to shape policy and, you know, in small and subtle ways. And that is impactful. So I'm not gonna go through all these, but there are a few I wanna highlight. The first one happened, with residential composting, a couple years ago, the commission formed a committee that helped, and the work from that committee helped staff understand some of the challenges that people face with composting at home. The commission also helped increase public awareness about residential composting at tabling events, and this continues to be one of the biggest talking points that comes up at tabling. So yeah, all the notes point to that when I look at the notes from the tabling events.
Talk about them.
The next one. Another one is Golden Gardens Park. So the city is currently evaluating which turf option to choose for sports fields at Golden Gardens Park. And the commission last year, the commission helped staff identify different aspects and variables to consider when evaluating those different turf options. And this year, the commission will have the opportunity to review those findings. So it's not that the commission has the authority to make the decision, but you're helping staff sort of how to evaluate these different options and what features of those options like are important to the community. And then the last example I just want to point to is last January, I brought some new communication tools that we had developed. This group was the first group to review, like this was the first public launch of those tools in sort of a soft way. And I was intentional about that because I valued your feedback, and your feedback did help us refine our messaging for how we shape, you know, those tools. We're going to be going to council with them this fall, and a lot of the feedback that you shared with us is helping to shape those messaging points. So yeah, I think overall, you know, your actions on this commission are helping to integrate sustainability across many different city projects and policies, and you really do serve as a consistent reminder to city council and to staff that the sustainability perspective is something important and needs to be, you know, brought into every single policy discussion. So again, this information is just meant to help frame, you know, the next conversation we're about to have with the work plan. And just keep these things in mind as you determine, you know, which topics you want to address this year. Yeah, and a lot of these things are things, like I said, just that I've kind of observed and noticed around seeing like the fiscal years through and how it gets translated to council and stuff. So take it or leave it, but those are some tips from me. And then finally, I just want to say thank you for your service on this commission. I recognize that many of you have super busy lives. You wear many hats, not only in the professional world, but also, you know, raising families, going to school, running businesses. I mean, XYZ, like volunteering your time and working in so many different ways. And so it's just inspiring to see you also choose this to be something to be a part of. And it's just cool to see your you know, that people in this community care enough to participate in something like this. So thank you for your commitment to sustainability and your commitment to making Eugene a better place to live.
Right. We have time for comments or?
Yeah. Yeah, I think we have a few minutes.
I first wanted to thank you and Ian. You guys are awesome staff, so back at you. And then I had two things I wanted to say. One, sometimes these current issues come up and we're asked as a commission to write a letter to council or kind of sign on to something, and we don't sign on to stuff, but we do sometimes form a super short just get together with one or two people and draft a letter and then send it, vote on it and then send it as a committee. So that's something that happens. It's happened several times a year. And then I also wanted to just note kind of a tension and a need for flexibility around having our goals and objectives. One of them being the community, like representing the community, bringing the community views to council, and then not being asked to do anything that the council's not already doing. So there's just an inherent tension in those two asks because they don't always match up. So that's something that I think we kind of encounter, not with frequency, but it does come up, and it's just an inherent tension when we're asked to do two things that don't always match.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up.
Both of them.
Can I ask on that? Down thing. So related to that thing where an emerging topic presents, there's a small and hasty kind of team formed to address, and I think what I would ask is, sometimes that doesn't leave much room for discussion and learning because we go quickly. And so if that's part of the model, which is we have these buckets of work and we stick to them except for when we don't, it's an element of how can we find some agreement or some way to find the time to build some slightly more robust conversation on it. That's all. Not to say we shouldn't do that, because I think being nimble is part of what makes you resilient. But is there a way we can give ourselves space? Because I think last year I felt sort of rushed out of the conversation, and I don't rush through the conversation.
Do you have a suggestion? Because it's a little bit of a nebulous conversation, because it seems like when issues do emerge like that, it's not all the same form, you know, or the same reason, or the same speed, or it's hard to know.
Even just being open to saying, you know, are we open to an additional work session of type? Or are we open to making space to work this, and not that we don't have the time to talk about it, so we're gonna go right to a vote. I think.
So I definitely, thank you for sharing that, and thank you for sharing what you were saying too. We are a commission that is bound by formalities, laws, and like, in terms of like, we're bureaucratic stuff. So there are certain restrictions that just come naturally from that, like when we're trying to time the output of our committees in a way that they're gonna be received and landed in the city council, so that they'll even be heard, or more likely be heard. So it's like we're butting up against the reality of the city council and the way that the city operates and the way that we're enabled to operate at times. And that does feel constricted sometimes, it feels rushed sometimes. I think it's worth noting, like, when, definitely voice if that's felt, and like questioning whether that can happen, but sometimes, we're just restricted by the reality of like how this commission operates, I guess. The way that all of the work, considering the fuller body that like has to unfold, like if we've been planning something, an output of these committees that have been happening, and then an emerging topic comes up right when we're supposed to be hitting the city council with like 3 letters, and then this comes up, it's like, we have to consider the timeliness and whether or not it's gonna be heard, because we also don't wanna see our work going to waste, like landing on deaf ears, or not being seen or noticed or given the time by council that it deserves. So it's just a matter of like, in the moment, consideration and tactfulness, and yeah, so I think it's worth a conversation. But I just also want to acknowledge and reference that this is a reality of how we have to work sometimes, so.
And a really quick suggestion, when these come up, if maybe we could all be better at, it's usually one person bringing it to the commission as a topic. We could have a summary paragraph, links to it, and it's always an issue that's talked about in the community. It's not like some random thing, it's like something that the community is mulling over. But we could make sure that we get a robust like links, and then each of us on our own time is gonna have to do a little of our own research, because we just don't have the time to do it in the meeting.
That would be helpful, yeah.
That's a great suggestion, thank you. Does that feel good to you?
Yeah, I think that's great.
Okay.
So we can do some homework.
Awesome. Emily.
So related to some of the outcomes from previous commissions, and the understanding that messaging needs to be approved, and so is there, for the new commissioners, are there messages around some of those topics that have already gone through all of the process that, you know, you're talking about at tabling events and things like, is there some information or homework around that that we can have?
Yeah, there's.
Or slideshow?
There's a slideshow that the commission has developed. There's a few
Okay.
different handouts that have been developed. If you wanna see like the formal memos that have been put out by the commission, those are on the website. That's what comes to mind
Okay.
as material that's like gone through the full vote and the process. Yeah.
Some of those topics I'm very familiar with, but I
Yeah.
wanna make sure I'm in alignment with what the commission has decided.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, you don't necessarily have to be in alignment
Mhm.
because, you know, our work is ever evolving and
Mhm.
reflective of the real human people that we have on the commission at any given
Sure.
time, and yeah, we're here,
Well, I just wanna clarify too. I think, you know, when you're tabling out as a commissioner,
Mhm.
you're empowered to like share about the resources that you know about, that maybe you've learned about through here, or that you may know about like, I don't know, like composting or
Yeah.
whatever.
Right, that's.
I think it needs official like, if you're gonna be talking to the media, if you're gonna go do public comment, you cannot say, I'm a sustainability commissioner and I'm saying this
Okay.
unless that has been approved by the full
I see. Okay.
commission. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay.
Definitely. Thank you.
Yeah. And if you're ever unsure, let me know.
I will.
Specific situations are maybe easier to pick apart.
Okay, so it does,
Feature.
oh, I'm sorry, Alexi.
No worries. I actually, speaking of process, I was hoping you could give us a really quick rundown on our the even possibility of scheduling alternate things, given that it eats into your time and bandwidth, plus what triggers quorum and needs public posting and all that, like because those define the
Yeah.
ground rules around what we can and cannot do in terms of
Yeah,
discussing things. and-
I mean, I'd recommend
Maybe
everybody
just a
do the
quick-
bylaws, but a couple of the big things is like, if there's quorum, so more than 6 people, I think it is, seven people, then that needs to be publicly noticed and like recorded and publicly shared and all of that.
Noticed in advance, a week ahead.
Yeah, meetings need
Makes
to be
it-
noticed a week advance, so committees, that's also like, there's a lot of staff time that goes into like getting the committee meeting noticed and then running it and then posting it after and doing the minutes and all that, so that's also part of why we've limited it to 3 is just my bandwidth. What other specific topics in the bylaws did you want me to?
I think that was a big one. Yeah, I
Okay.
mean, but even like communications among 7 of us at a time trigger that too, so.
When you were saying, yeah, scheduling additional things, it's not really easy to say, let's call a meeting of.
Yeah.
You can do it with there's 2 or 3, maybe if we can, but it's a little hard to do.
Yeah.
And again, it's your time. I mean. I think that's a great message for all the newbies and existing as well as like. You have another part of your job. That's quite large.
The thing I was
So
gonna
do
say,
you.
kind of to Laura and Courtney's point is like, when there's an emerging topic. It's one thing to elevate, this is a community concern, we're hearing a lot about it. When the commission's gonna take a position on it, like make a recommendation. I actually think it is a good idea for, to maybe invite a speaker or something. I mean, one example that comes to mind is the U of O letter,
Right.
the commission took a position on the U of O letter. I think it would have been really great for the commission to hear from the U of O guy who was leading that thermal study. So I think when the commission is gonna take a position on sort of an emerging topic that's outside of the work plan, I think it would be a good idea and it would lend more weight to the recommendation if there's homework that's been done and like spoken to the whoever the expert on that topic is or leader of that project.
And what I'll say is that like, I know that there are emerging topics that are coming up within the community in a way that might push forward a rush timeline, but from a council perspective, usually, our meetings have the same requirements that other folks do with like putting on agendas in advance and all that sort of thing. So even if it's an emerging community topic, unless it is truly something that is like, oh my goodness, we're having a global pandemic, it probably will not be something that we're making a decision on fast enough that like you'll not have an opportunity to
Work it alone.
work it alone, yeah.
Okay,
Well, I was just gonna say, I think the U of O letter is a good example, and I can see both sides of that. Yes, if we'd had the time, it would have been great to have a presentation from someone, but there wasn't a lot of time because of what the timeline was supposed to be for the U of O decision maker. And we did get feedback from our council liaison at the time that, oh, that was actually really helpful that we weighed in on it. So it wasn't perfect, but we did the best we could under the circumstances, and if we can do better, it's good to do better.
sorry, I just want to be conscientious of our time. Yes, we are biting into.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you all for that, and I think, yeah, I think definitely we should all feel safe to voice if we think something needs a little more attention or time, so that we're all aware. This, as best as possible by providing as many resources in a succinct manner that each individual commissioner can like look into. Okay. Should we take our break?
No, we have to do the,
Oh, the overview of sorry. Report, annual report.
yeah, so did anyone have so the draft annual report was sent out in the packet. I'm wondering if folks had edits.
I actually thought it was very nicely done.
You've had Oh, Laura, sorry. I'm sorry, my glasses are not great for it. It's dark vision.
Glare, I can't see anything going on.
Thank you.
I thought it was great, whoever wrote it, I did have, I think I'm talking to Danielle, so.
Oh, yeah.
There was a lot of detail that I felt like probably could be omitted, and since council's busy and they don't really know detail the presentations we got, I think the report is like what we did and what we shared to them, summary. But like, the presentations, I think the bullet point, I don't think they really care the top, they really use these things. And then also it struck me as a little bit possibly misplaced to put in like some comments that commissioners made at a presentation, because not all the comments were listed. There was just like one or two, and that was like, why are those elevated over all the others? We didn't vote on that. There was, like that committee agreement or commission agreement that that's what we were gonna be sharing. So I personally think that we don't need to put any of that, just like a bullet of the presentations, unless it's a place where we were asked to give feedback, and that's different. And then I think the feedback we gave is definitely could go in there. But all the ones where it's just we listened and learned and then said some stuff, I don't think the council really needs to.
Can you give an example then of one where you were formally giving feedback?
I think just the tree one, I think we're required.
Oh, yeah. Oh, okay. I see what you mean.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, was the, Envision Eugene, where this more formal feedback too, I think. Would you?
Yeah, I didn't. There was some that we were like officially.
Well, the street trees is the only one I'm thinking of that fits that, because you have a formal role there, but I don't think the commission has technically a formal role with Envision Eugene.
We have a liaison. Yeah, you have a.
Well, but those are two separate things.
We have been formally asked to comment on the Golden Gardens.
Gardens, yeah. That's true.
I think Courtney.
That's what I was just thinking. Thank you, Jan.
So one thing I kind of, in the overview, there was kind of a note that the defining our role as contributing lived experience to advancing the city's climate goals. And I found myself wondering if that's a little narrow, because I think when I look at the bylaws, like we're really contributing to those measurable solutions of that triple bottom line component. And so I found myself questioning, like, are we narrowing too much when actually we're contributing from not even, sometimes it's not the city's immediate climate goals. They're not to that point yet where it's a climate goal, but we're contributing feedback and experience of the community and policies that are, sustainability and resilience. And so I found myself pivoting to the bylaws and wondering if there's a way to just kind of get back to that language so that it's threading through and out of the mission statement. And then I had a similar feeling of the tone kind of, but I think you just talked about it, and one of my thoughts on that is maybe a future report, if we want to get into some of that, is to more intentionally as we go through topics in this next year, is capture what we're hearing in varying perspectives. And then when we talk about each of these topics, say, perspectives that found barriers said this, perspectives that found opportunities said this. We could find ways to incorporate that in future reports if we start from day one looking for it. But I had the same feedback of just consistent tone.
Okay.
I thought it was great and appreciated how much work you put into it. I hope council reads it. I believe it.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other comments about the annual report? Okay.
I guess I'm a little confused about when, if we say you want to take out parts that are about the presentations, which were the things that you thought were too.
Can I reiterate what I think I heard you say, so that way you can tell me if I'm wrong or not? What I'm hearing you say is just list in a bulleted form the names of the topics. Take away the description and like the feedback that was kind of like not totally comprehensive. Okay.
Okay.
An example would be like, under public health standards, commissioners emphasize the need for proactive policies that protect vulnerable communities, blah, blah, blah. Like, that's not really a thing. We didn't, someone may have noted
We said
that
that.
discussion, but that wasn't really, that's what you mean.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
We would just say public health
Yeah, that
standards.
makes sense. I mean, yeah, it was hard to tease out like the thread, and you're right, it wasn't like endorsed by the full commission, that was like the final like opinion or whatever, so.
So, are we moving to approve? Is there? or-
No,
No.
let me make those edits.
Okay.
And next month.
Okay.
We'll approve.
Devin, did you have?
You'll approve.
I just thought of one thing related to what you just said, Danielle, really quick. I'll be quick, but like, so is this something when we do have the presentations, something to consider might be, do we as a commission decide on a formal, like, if we want to include something like that? Yeah, like when we have a presentation and we have the discussion time, like, would we want to then go, hey, what's our, thinking ahead to our work plan, like, report, like, is there a statement we would like to make about this presentation or not? But I don't know, like, that's just like, is there something it's floating out there, there's no answer right now, it's just like,
Could we put that on an agenda at some point?
yeah, like, discuss that, I mean.
It could also come up in this evening's exercise of thinking about how we approach things ahead.
Yeah, I mean, my initial thought though is like, I think what's valuable is hearing like the different perspectives to try to sum it up into one thing. Eliminate
just
that
saying if-
nuance that then it's not as
is-
useful to staff.
But if there could be, like, let's say there's a discussion and there is a thing, we could say, hey, everybody seems in agreement, do we wanna make
A statement.
a one statement or something? Is people comfortable with that? And they can say no. I mean, I just wondered if that might, if it's even needed at all, but if people feel like they wanna have a statement on a
I
presentation
think that
or an.
if we're kind of free flowing talking, I think that the value I see potentially in a report going back to council is if we, in the instances where we don't all have agreement, if it says, topics that were considered, expressed of support included these themes, topics that were expressed of concern included these themes. And then I think part of that is, does that provide the council some awareness that maybe they didn't yet know, but is definitely gonna come to their front porch? Because eventually the topic lands there.
Yeah.
And then they see, we looked at this 360. But it would require that ask of, okay, if it's a no, what is the, why the no? Or what's the concern?
I think the need for that and the usefulness of that will be highly dependent on the topic. Because I'm gonna pick on the Clean Lane Resource Recovery Facility. Council hasn't gotten a really in-depth, like, that's not really a city topic, right? And so in that scenario, the feedback is most useful for staff. to kind of hear that community perspective and kind of be able to incorporate that. I think when it is, and there are a lot of things that council gets presentations on that we don't necessarily have a decision point on. But I do think that if it's something that's coming up that we do have a decision point on, either knowing that the Sustainability Commission has sort of a uniform joint statement on it, or sort of a summary of here's some of the perspectives would be helpful. And so like, it's kind of, if you're thinking about when do we want to invest time in coming up with like some sort of communication that summarizes our views, I would say focusing it on times where it's gonna be a council decision point in the future.
Thank you. All right, thank you all for your edits and feedback. And are we ready to take a break now?
Yeah, let's take
Okay.
a break.
All right, or do we still want to do the 10 minutes, or are we gonna have to restrict it because we're running a little bit?
Why don't we take, let's come back at 6:55.
Okay.
Well, the question is, how close are the restrooms?
8 minutes, and there's a really
And how many
delicious
are there?
dessert if people wanna help them.
All right.
We'll be back at 6:55.
Thank you.
emojis.
Right.
Oh, don't
That
think
was
we,
amazing.
I know, that was insane.
Yeah.
Yeah, so good. Okay,
Wait, my.
I clearly don't know how to
um,
have it all open.
don't want that to run.
Okay.
Okay. So we're gonna work on selecting our topics for our work plan 2025. I will say, again, what you'll see here is selected topics that were chosen for their relevance to upcoming council work
Well, I can.
and,
a
oh
little
yeah,
more- Yeah, can I?
Yeah,
if I
please,
jump to
yeah.
explain, so, okay, so I'll explain the process of how this has typically worked in the past and. Give a rundown of the topics, so, basically, all of the topics that you see listed, these are current projects or policies that are in active stages of development, either with staff or with city council, or out in the community from community partners. And, basically, the way it works is you'll get dot. The goal is to end up with 10 topics over here and 3 committees, 2 or 3 committees. So I'll start with the meeting topics. I'll just give a quick rundown of what they are, kind of rapid fire, just to refresh your memory. So, for transportation, we have 5 topics. Infrastructure changes near transit stops. Basically, the city is evaluating some different changes and upgrades made to, infrastructure near LTD bus stops. So crosswalk enhancement, sidewalk repair, bike lane, things like that. And they're looking for the commission's feedback on, some of their initial findings about how they're gonna prioritize those projects. Number 2, Franklin Boulevard is getting a much needed update. This is a key transportation corridor in Eugene. And staff are hoping to better accommodate a variety of different transportation options better, as well as accommodate, a lot of increased housing density that has occurred, with a lot of the new student housing that's gone in. So the commission will be asked to review, a roundabout analysis, as well as provide input on some of the other components of the design project. Expanding micro mobility. So, this project is looking at expanding, the current bike share program to include e-bikes and e-scooters, potentially skateboards, I think he had said.
Is that the Peace Health Program?
Yeah, it's a Peace Health Bike Share Program, and so staff are looking for commission feedback around how to prioritize, do we prioritize like spreading farther across the community, or do we prioritize investing in more different types of options? So just sort of like how to prioritize limited resources there. And there's also some code changes that staff are suggesting for city council to better support micro mobility. Sidewalk policy and funding. City council has been hearing from community members about sidewalk quality, and so they've developed a strategy around how to for some short-term solutions and some long-term solutions. So seeking thoughts and opinions from commissioners on that strategy. LTD, this is a follow-up from last year. LTD came and provided last year, LTD came and shared some of their short-term changes that happened in the wake of COVID. They're doing a longer-term vision now. So what does transit look like, 10, 20, 30 years from now? It's a formal engagement process. They're hiring a consultant. They're gonna be doing extensive community engagement, and they wanted to formally engage the commission as part of that. Okay, buildings. So home energy score, that's me and Ian. We are exploring a policy to require home energy scores when a house is listed for sale. There's also some different policy options that vary in strength of like something that would be more burdensome and sort of regulatory. There's also less. And so we'd like to get feedback from you. This is something that's going to be going to council probably at the mid-winter. So yeah, that's coming up. local applications of geothermal energy. This is a carryover from last year. We never quite got to it because there was some scheduling issues with some of the partners. So this would be something Northwest Natural, St. Vincent de Paul, and Homes for Good. I'm hoping that the three of them could come talk about some exciting projects they've done related to ground source heat pumps locally. There's also something called thermal energy networks, which are being piloted in other areas, and they are something that potentially has a, potential here in terms of meeting clean energy goals, reliability, and affordability. So we just kind of want to increase, I personally thought this would just be a good learning opportunity for the public and the commission and kind of council to start understanding what is geothermal energy, how is it applied locally, how could it, scale up.
What can I ask?
Yeah.
What's Northwest Natural's role in this? This doesn't sound like a guess.
Yeah, that's a good question. So we've talked to Northwest Natural a bit about this. Little bit. And geothermal energy is something that could be run through pipes. It's similar infrastructure that's needed in order to transport that energy. And so I can't really speak for them, but when we had spoken like a year and a half ago, there was some pilot projects that they were tracking elsewhere that they were excited about. And it's also something that we know our local environmental advocates also support. So it just seems to be an area of mutual alignment.
Can I add one quick?
Yeah.
Washington State passed legislation a couple of years ago to enable utilities to do these pilot projects, to see these thermal networks. I think their interest is that it's a place for their pipe fitters to do work, but rather than moving methane gas, you're moving
Refrigerator
networks.
Yeah.
But so they're doing a pilot in Vancouver, Washington. I'm not totally sure what the status of that
Yeah.
was, but that's something what they were doing to explore this idea, as well as some of these ideas that are going on in Massachusetts in this realm. To sort of explore this as a concept idea for ways in which you could sort of meet thermal energy goals, but do it in a slightly different way.
Thanks.
Okay, so moving on to waste, the Recycling Modernization Act, this came to the commission, I think 2 or 3 years ago. When it was still it had been passed by the state, but now it's been implemented. It started in July. And so, and there's new staff now leading, at the city in terms of the waste prevention program. So they would love to come say what is it? How's it going? Why is it so revolutionary? And how has it been going since it's been implemented? So it's more of an informational thing, but also could expand your awareness when you go out to the public, because it's going to make some changes to recycling.
And people ask us about that at events.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
Refrigerants, so this,
Or stickers.
refrigerants is a lesser known but highly, potent greenhouse gas that, is a powerful contributor to climate change. Bring has been doing recent work with businesses and households to help them understand how they can mitigate refrigerants. And, when I spoke with Bring, Beth from Bring, she was also really excited about having a conversation to help equip commissioners around how you can inform and engage the community on this, because it's not like a very easy, it's not like a car burning gas, it's like refrigerants, what is that? So good learning opportunity there as well, about something that's really powerful and dangerous. Okay, resilience, so street tree projects, this one kind of has to go on the work plan because there's a bond requirement. So the commission is designated in the bond to review street tree projects that are funded through the 2022 transportation bond. In terms of turf options at Golden Gardens Park, last year, like I said, the commission provided input to staff as they were developing a triple bottom line analysis. They'll be completing that study and they'd like to bring it back to the commission for review and for input. And then these are other topics that came up, youth perspectives and climate action. How have youth been organizing around climate? What can the commission better understand from youth so that they can represent them to city council? The thought, and I kind of brainstormed with Lily a little bit, was we could invite some different youth climate groups to come speak, sort of have a panel. Number 13 was business perspectives on climate policy. This was a suggestion from Courtney to hear from some
surprised, I know.
well, and yeah, I let me know if you don't like the framing, but the way I kind of interpreted what she was saying was, here, invite some businesses to come speak or organize field trips to go visit businesses, to better understand their perspectives on how they are affected by sustainability policies, and topics addressed by council. So this could kind of help businesses or help commissioners better understand like that business perspective. And then number 14, understanding equity in climate work. This would be an opportunity for commissioners just to gain sort of that competency and more understanding around how vulnerable communities are being impacted by climate change and how they're impacted by policies and planning efforts. Just to sort of better understand how equity plays a role in sustainability and like planning work more broadly. Okay, so those are the topics that would go for meetings. And then for committees, so ideally we'd like to end up with 3. Mitra and I had talked, and Education Outreach has been a standing committee for the last few years. So she thought it would be nice to just make that a standing committee and then choose 1 or 2 more in addition to that. So the other one, so for Education Outreach Committee, you don't necessarily have to put a dot on it, but maybe instead if you could put a post-it like, how could the commission do outreach and engagement, just to kind of start getting like some new fresh ideas. And then put 2 dots, 1 or 2 dots on the other 4. So the Transportation Committee would be related to researching policies that support active transportation. So, you know, I think one struggle the city's facing is like, we've made these large investments in bike lanes and sidewalks and, you know, physical infrastructure to support those types of more modalities, but we're not necessarily seeing a measurable shift in mode share. And so what are policy approaches in other jurisdictions that have also supported, you know, from that policy lens, active transportation? And there's cool stuff happening, you know, congestion pricing, 0 emission delivery zones, some recent policies in Paris. So just kind of like doing research, like what's out there that we should be looking at that could help like accelerate that mode shift. Buildings Committee. This was an idea that sort of budded with a conversation I had with Councilor Kaczynski. And I also thought it could be a good fit given some of the expertise that we have in the room. A committee on sustainable building materials and design. So the context here is what are materials and design features that could help, you know, lower the emissions and carbon impact of buildings. This is an opportunity, you know, I know there was commission interest in MUFD. That is not necessarily coming up to council this year, but it will be coming up again in like the next few years. And so now's a good time for the commission to help educate council about things like, you know, low carbon concrete or mass timber or salvage lumber. Jan had proposed single stairways. Like, what are other things that we could consider perhaps as part of those incentive programs, housing incentive programs? Okay, number 4, Waste Committee. So this was an idea from Mitra, gaps and opportunities in the waste stream. So I think overall our region really is leading the way in terms of our waste shed and the infrastructure we have and the amount of materials we're diverting. But there are still significant streams of materials that are having an outsized impact. So, you know, construction materials, batteries, commercial compost. So digging into more like, what are they? Are there other ones? That was just like what I thought of, and what are policy approaches that could help sort of address those. And then finally, the Policy Evaluation Frameworks Committee. I know that's a lot of jumbled with. This again came from Courtney that, and sort of an idea I had prior to talking to Courtney that, you know, there's a variety of frameworks out there that exist when we're evaluating policies, things like a triple bottom line analysis. The city's also used an equity lens before. There's other ones. Could this committee maybe help develop some type of framework for the commission to evaluate these policies from like a holistic lens across different, intervention points. So yeah, so I know I talked super fast there, but hopefully you've read through this before and there's packets in the front. So I think unless nobody has specific questions, the goal will be to grab your sticky Post-its and dot your preferences.
Yeah, I just
Yeah.
wanna, so you mentioned a couple of these on here are basically, they're gonna be on the list because by bond or by, there's,
Yeah.
is it worth putting like something so we don't put our dots?
So we don't
on
waste your
just-
dot. Well, yeah, so I think it would be,
Right,
well,
is
you
it-
don't get 10 more though. So I think there's street tree projects is the
Is that the
only
only one? I thought there was. Okay.
You had said that a bunch of these under transportation, you were seeking commission feedback on. So I guess I had that same thought as like, does that mean that we have to select those? or-
No, I mean, when I put out an email to staff like, hey, what are projects that you're working on that you'd like commission feedback on? And this
Okay.
is what was shared. You're not required to provide
And
that
then-
feedback.
And then.
Street trees, we are.
Couple things.
Yes.
We are, but the last piece, on these committees, when I read the descriptions, the only question I had is, like active transportation, is some of this duplicative of other formal committees already in place? Like,
That's a good question. So when this was originally conceived, it was like thought of as, what are like sort of behavior enhancing strategies that could help induce more active transportation. There's already the active transportation committee,
yeah.
but they have a different role than you
I
guys.
just wanna make, cause that one and then sustainable building, and I think about the incredible breadth of architects that are looking at sustainable building design in some of the city programs under a different committee, and I don't remember the name of it. But, like I know you've got some Rob Brokaw folks on it, and
Mhm.
that's where I was like, I wanna make sure we're not.
I think the difference is a lot of those other committees have a staff role, like they report to staff. They don't have the connection to council in the way the commission does. And so I think that's where there's an opportunity, the commission, to elevate these things to council in like a more policy way. So.
And I think, sorry, we had the same concern of the active transportation one. So we actually talked to staff and said, this is an idea. Are we duplicating what the ATC?
When we don't wanna be recommending conflicting.
Right, and so like, we talked through that with staff and they did,
Yeah.
we arrived at this idea based on, they were saying, well, this is actually be helpful. This is a gap that we don't have understanding of.
And is it possible to get some information from that committee to that, or from that commission to that committee, if there is a committee formed on that topic? To like, so we're not like replicating.
Coordinate.
So for instance, in one of our committees in the past, we heard from city staff about, we had been tasked to do this one thing, yeah. And we heard from city staff that like our original idea focus was not helpful. And so we shifted focus. So if we hear from the group that's working on this and they give us like our committee, a more focused area of where we could like be helpful, that's a tactic that might be worth it investigating.
Yeah, I mean, I think I did vet this idea with staff who lead the active transportation committee, so I think. Or maybe I'm not explaining, like their direction that they urged this commission to go was to like focus on the policies. Rather than like the behavior strategies, so.
Jan. Right.
Yes, Jan.
Yeah, a couple things. So I think we said street tree projects and also the turf options are things that we pretty much have to include on our schedule, right? And then, so sort of a process discussion. We last year changed our meeting format a little bit in that we reduced the number of presentations that we did overall to allow ourselves more commission discussion time, correct?
Well, the commission decided to just do one topic per
Right,
commission meeting, so that would be 8. I, as staff, like to have 10 just in case like scheduling gets hard.
Well, I was just wondering, I don't know if we ever fully did a debrief, and is that something we're definitely
No.
committed to continuing? Or do we have enough things that I just thought, I
The
just wanted,
discussion.
leave it out
Just a
there.
comment too on that
We
was
need
it was
discussion
reduced
every time.
because of Danielle's time not being able to manage 2 organized, remember, that was a
I think
thing?
it was both, yeah.
Yeah, it was a combo.
To allow.
Well, I'm just wondering if there is any flexibility in that, you know, for some meetings or whatever, just as a condition of how many items we're picking. I just wanted to put it out there.
Okay, any other questions? Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
No, it's okay. Just as, because I was on active transportation for years and years and years, and then my husband was on it after I got off of it. So I continue to know what was on. I feel like their focus, at least when I was experiencing it, was very much on very specific projects. And so they would have informational presentations, but when they were giving feedback, it was a lot more on like, okay, we're building this bike lane here. Or we need a list of like where we should put 14 different bike lanes. And it was a little bit more focused on projects that staff were working on as opposed to a broader, what are some policies level. And so, you know, I think there's some potential for it to be a little duplicative, but I don't think it's not inherently duplicative. It's kind of looking at it through a different lens.
So sorry, did that earlier too. Yeah, heard that.
No wonder you.
Leaving myself a voicemail.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Jan?
So do we want to have any other discussion? We had those two comments from the public earlier that we said are related to buildings and building energy. And we talked about, do we want to think about whether they might tie into either presentation topics, or if we had a buildings committee, that would be something that could be included.
Yeah, so we could add it to that topic, but so these are the topic ideas and there is still room when the committee chair pitches this idea and the plan to like shift, I guess, a little bit, right? If like we wanted to add a perspective to the home energy score policy in terms of like the two, incorporating the consideration of the comments that were.
Can you clarify what the topic would be? Because from what I understood from the. Yeah, can you clarify what the topic would be?
What I heard was, yeah, I'm not sure it fits with, actually, specifically, somebody mentioned the home energy score. I'm not sure that it does
at all.
exactly.
Yeah.
But they talked about wanting to focus on, if I understood it correctly, how to focus on reducing GHG emissions in buildings. And I think they were talking about city-owned buildings in particular as a
Commercial.
or commercial, but as
And city
a demonstration is what I'm trying to say.
There were two different comments, so
Yeah.
one, yeah.
I think I misquoted when I said city buildings. I think, and I didn't realize that until I read Ravens, but what it said was to address greenhouse gas emissions in Eugene's buildings, specifically focusing on low and moderate income households and renters through heat pump based electrification and weatherization retrofits.
And what did the other one say?
It was very
The other
similar.
was broader.
That was
A similar language.
The second one had the heat pump based
Right.
piece.
Okay, so both of those are more focused on actual, it sounds like residences and how to support the transition and.
Yeah.
Well, one of them said something about reducing fossil fuels
Right.
in commercial buildings or city buildings. I don't
It just
remember
said-
which.
Yeah, I feel like it just said buildings.
Yeah,
And with,
buildings.
yeah,
not necessarily city.
and it's I mean, the common place to, sorry, I'm not supposed to do that every time.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it would be a common place to start to model it within the city before regulating it to other commercial property.
Yeah, I think Eugene has the local government, has the most legal authority and practical ability. So I mean, I guess I'm not necessarily seeing a reason to change. I think that the outcome goals of those priorities is embodied in CAP 2.0. And what I've understood is this commission's tasked with starting to get at some of these policy centric topics that move within CAP 2.0. So I mean, I think some of that will come to play in some pieces in here potentially, but
Yeah. Oh, Lexi, were you?
That's all right. I was trying to summarize some of these things, but it's been done. Okay.
I just really quick, I mean, rather than like trying to cram it into a presentation thing, it could
Yeah.
easily go into the committee.
Committee, yeah.
The sustainable building
I think
materials.
that makes 100% more sense.
Yeah, seems to me too.
That's already up there.
Yeah,
Consider it as a part of that. I think so too.
okay. Are we ready?
I'll just note that it's not a presentation to everyone involved, but if some subset of people really get fired up about one topic, say there's a sustainable building materials and design, you can still have a guest speaker in that working group or committee. It just isn't one of the 8 or 10 that talk with all of us.
Okay, I think we should move to do it because we're running out of time.
Okay, so do I have to vote on this?
No, we have to.
Okay.
Move, got
We have to move.
Move it, okay.
Speakers.
So what are the green are the committees and the
transit stops and understanding equity and climate work. There's 9 at the top. So I think those are all good to go. You have to pick one out of these. Does anyone wanna be a champion for one of them?
Sidewalk repair.
Sidewalk repair, sidewalk repair, expanding micro mobility and long-term vision for public transit.
You say sidewalk repair?
I would say sidewalk, I'd say actually either of these two. Because both of these, it sounds like there's gonna be code changes associated with the micro mobility. Sidewalk repair is another thing that I think we have less information on. I think LTD, public transit, like, also doesn't necessarily get as directly involved in that, and so.
As you said, so as the board that informs council, these are
These
things
other
we can
two
inform
are
council
important.
meaningful.
I'd like to throw a plug for the sidewalk repair policies and funding, just because that's a big issue
It is.
in Southeast. I mean, it's a big issue everywhere, but like it comes up again and again and again in our neighborhood association meetings. People make public comment about it all the time. And there's some effort of volunteers going and helping people fix their sidewalks, but they can't really on some level. So it's, people are talking about it
Yeah.
everywhere I go.
Yeah, it comes up at public engagement.
Yeah.
My question for you on the LTD one was, you mentioned that they reached out and asked for the commission's engagement in that.
Well, I may have misphrased that or you misheard me wrong. When I reached out to them for if they had topics they wanted to, would it be interested to bring to the commission, that was what they suggested. So it wasn't.
Okay, so it wasn't like
wasn't-
they were asking the commission to, okay.
Well, so if these two are, do we wanna, the other thing I just wanna flag is transportation is one of our biggest emissions areas.
Yeah.
So it would be okay for there to be 3 if there's a different topic that should be eliminated. I don't know.
Can I
Commission's
add
very-
something? Transportation is one of the biggest, but what portion of transportation is the biggest? There's so much, there's trucking
Yeah,
is a huge emitter, we have no impact on it. So I'm curious about which parts are we actually impacting or helping.
Yeah.
Because it's not personal cars that are the big issue, the big emitter.
Well,
So I
if you
just
guys
wanna throw
Part of
that out.
education, because I thought it was single occupancy vehicles, but.
Yeah,
Well, like,
gas
either way.
Of the percentage, gas is the largest and diesel's close second, but it is second.
Even
So cars
in terms of
emissions.
so you mean gas being cars?
Yeah, and like whether it's personal vehicles versus gas used fleet vehicles, I don't have that breakdown, we have the consumption of what the fuel source is.
But our number one, gasoline for vehicle use is the largest source of.
Of transportation.
Non-diesel. So in the themes that we talked about, which are the things that city council will be making decisions on. The mobility and Franklin is definitely something that the council will be making decisions on as it relates to that design, roundabouts.
Yeah.
That's a council
I
decision.
don't think it's
Staff are like heavily working on that right now, so we're providing feedback.
I don't think we get to vote on it.
Yeah.
But we may talk about it.
But this commission does inform council and staff.
Yeah.
So it's both relevant.
And if they are talking about city code changes related to the micromobility, that's the thing that jumps out where there might actually be a council vote. Though if there's, they're doing work on the sidewalk repair and I don't know if they're like if there's a plan to come and say like, we're gonna make a recommendation to council if you pass this thing. Or start this program, maybe pouring that in, but the one that looks like it's more clearly a vote is the micromobility.
Let's just make a sidebar comment to Jan. I think we've had committees in the past that have looked at, say, EVs and what else the city can do to help promote that. And we've kind of, I think, taken that, there's stuff in the works that staff can do. There's some limitations in terms of getting money and all kinds of stuff. So I feel like we've looked at that and my inclination is always to say, let's do that. You know, we should work on that, but I think in terms of what the city can do, it has.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
thinking.
Did you have something?
Yeah, it occurs to me that the sidewalk one of the biggest drivers of sidewalk problems is street trees or trees next to sidewalks. And so there's some relationship between something we're required to talk about and something that folks in Eugene have been flagging and that there's interest in talking about. I don't know if they go together in the same presentation, because this is like a specific thing, but it is. Yeah, I think they stay two totally separate groups, but that sort of elevates sidewalks for me because it's closely related to a different area. It's both transportation and like livability and trees. It's kind of covers these multiple angles.
Can I just make super quick, is everyone aware about how the city of Eugene funds sidewalk repair on?
Yeah.
Do you guys know?
I don't think we have time for that.
I know, I think it's important to understand why it's an issue is because the homeowner is paying for it. In front of their house.
That's why-
You are responsible for your sidewalk.
Why it's gonna be hard to find a solution.
Right.
So are we gonna?
I'm just throwing it out there just to be sure that people know that piece. Yeah, no, it's
Well,
fine.
So maybe keep going and see. I think, well,
If we
so
need to slim.
it would be great to slim out one topic somewhere.
And by our votes, that would be one of
It would be one of these.
Can these be
Unless-
feasibly combined, or is that shortchanging both of them?
I mean, those could become efforts of the outreach and engagement committee. About how that happens. Are these field trips, are these panels that happen? You know. At a meeting, are these? Like presentations that happen at the committee?
Well, the committee could talk about it, but I think the whole commission would want to hear those things, right? So it'd have to be a function of a
This
meeting.
could also be a lens of how we do these things. So it could be an element of, as we approach some of these topics. Do we apply the learning lens of making a concerted effort to say, okay, here's what we think, who we think is involved and who cares and who's coming and activating on it. Let's also ask for some other perspectives in these focus areas.
I might just move on to committees and
Come back to that.
we have 11 topics.
Okay.
We'll come back to this. Okay, so. Cool ideas here. I think I'm just gonna give these to the Education and Outreach Committee. It looks like. This one goes away and this one goes away.
Well, if I may, can you clarify a little bit what you're thinking on policy framework?
Yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
It was how many votes were on the last one?
Oh,
Education had 3,
policy evaluation frameworks?
waste had 4.
Yeah, so when I kind of put it out there, it was a conversation about how can we approach some of these sticky topics? And like really wrap in triple bottom line or wrap in some of the taking our priorities and kind of evaluating them consistently across the board. So if we go to council with a letter, they start to see some consistent themes from us, which is, we tested it. With this lens, we discovered this, here are some components that you might expect. A lot of what, we see council experience is the sidewalk policy might come up or home energy score as a requirement might come up and the community will activate. Is there a role by using some framework on how we approach and assemble feedback where we can help them have some perspectives as they experience that engagement from the community?
Like developing a rubric, kind of.
Little bit of a rubric, and what Danielle kind of, I think you can speak more to, there has been some discussion about using triple bottom line analysis in some of the projects that the city has approached. And, is that a tool that helps in some of that rubricing?
I think my thinking was like, the city does do that already on its projects. I think the idea with this committee is how can the commission do that as well
Similar.
when they're reviewing and providing feedback or drafting a recommendation.
Yeah, so your idea was maybe triple bottom line as a version
Is one option.
of that approach, but it was creating some consistency on how we're approaching things.
So the outcome impacts how this group does our work. it's not, and it's not around a sustainability topic, it's internal to our own process, yeah.
Yeah, I think originally I didn't think of it as a committee. I think you were kind of like, maybe this is a committee, and I was like, I don't know. I
just wasn't clear how to bring it as a topic during a meeting, like, that's that person who's been like, walk you through this.
Jan?
I would rather see that as sort of an ad hoc topic that people who are interested could meet and talk. It's kind of like when we did the bylaws revisions and stuff like that, you know, get together and then bring a recommendation back to the group. But I guess that's a committee, but you know, just doesn't, it's different than ones we've had.
I kind of agree with Jan on that to a certain extent, although it was you and me that did.
I don't want to do it this time.
Right, but one thing I think that could be really valuable in that as an internal work is we don't do a lot of internal work, and I think that educating the commission about triple bottom line is worth having that committee. So everybody gets it, and then we have a framework we can communicate to future commissioners. That's the kind of work I love doing, so I would be
Would that be
happy to
like-
be on there.
Would that be like a presentation almost, like?
I mean, it could be, this is what we produced, just like a memo, except you're producing information and sharing it with the commission in a way that you might share a memo to council, right? It's just, you still would say, this is what we did, and this is our findings, and this is what we have to share, and then it becomes also, it could become a document that Danielle has to share, or something like, I mean, TBD.
I think I'm getting.
I think we're all
more
confused.
confused.
Yeah.
Why don't we raise hands, like, who wants to be a part of the Sustainable Building Committee? So 6 or 7. Who wants to be a part of the Policy Frameworks Committee? 2? Okay,
Well,
3.
if it's, yeah, if it is. I was-
Who would want to be a part of a Waste Committee? 3 somehow. I don't know, it's not very.
What,
5, 4, 3.
what's the fourth one,
About
got fewer
education,
dots? Fourth one was lower, okay.
What about education and outreach?
Oh,
Well,
yes.
who wants to be on the Education Outreach Committee?
How many committees? Did
We
you
want-
be on, you can be on it.
You can be on
All
as
of
many as
them?
you have
Okay,
time for.
okay.
Really
What
wait
are
about
time and
once a month.
bandwidth?
Right, yeah.
And there's some size above which they're unwieldy, which is like 7.
I would be
Yeah.
on it if I'm not on 2 other ones.
Which one?
That
This
one?
one?
Yeah.
So raise your hand again for this one. 3.
I mean,
That's
I'm
a good-
interested in all of them.
It's a good committee.
Yeah.
If I can be on
I would
two,
probably.
I'd be on the waste and
Waste
the, and the
and-
building, if I can be on 2.
Oh, yeah, you can be on 3.
Two is good.
Not sure
3
how
is
to
a
make-
lot.
It occurs to me that
I think each has kind of your call, how you wanna.
you know, we're doing templates, right?
Yeah,
I wonder if the policy evaluation frameworks is an extension of the work we're kind of moving on to make there be like a template for
or out,
outputs.
yeah.
It's,
Committee
it seems
updates.
closely related
Yeah.
to what you were just talking about a bit ago about, or not talking about in depth, but you mentioned earlier. Creating templates for what we put together,
Yeah,
that seems closely related.
I think it does.
yeah, so maybe there's like you were saying, an ad hoc group or something that wants to talk about working on the template. And a rubric or a lens for evaluation.
So are you guys leaning towards those 2 then?
Well.
I think it's like 1 year, so ad hoc or committee.
Yeah,
I think,
Same
I think
thing.
it should be a committee
It still
because
needs to be
you
public
still, people
notice.
need their time. I mean, you can't have more, like, make it a 4th committee because we won't have
Okay.
time and she won't.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, well, I think if we're gonna, I think we should say the same thing about this, is just let's stick with our dots and the dots that the way that we've chosen to
Yeah.
vote on this, so we'll just stick with that, and then I think we need to actively vote about which of those 2 we're gonna eliminate and just honor the dots that we've put it over here, so if we're just gonna,
So
push
should we
through
just
this.
do a vote? Up
Yeah.
and down vote?
yeah,
Sure.
so, doesn't. Oh, sorry.
I forgot. My apologies.
You had your vote, please, while you.
Gonna say, I definitely agree with what Devin said about like what is triple bottom line? Because I think it was during one of my first meetings, I was like, what are they even talking about?
Yeah.
You really.
Okay, so we'll stick with that and then. So who would like to focus on expanding micro mobility through bike share 2.0 and city code? And you pick one of these two. And then who would like?
Oh,
there's
wait.
three?
We're picking up two or picking up three?
One of two.
Franklin's already
We can-
there.
Got it, sorry.
So do you want micro mobility or sidewalks?
Sidewalks.
Sidewalks, sorry.
Okay, sidewalks looks like it wins. Okay, cool.
Wait, who voted for micro mobility?
No,
I think it was just like two people.
Two.
Oh, okay.
and it
Okay.
wasn't me, I accidentally.
So sidewalks.
Okay,
There's our whole plan. Okay, I think let's move into the next topic, cause it's getting late.
Yeah.
Here on the agenda.
At what point do we get the participants?
I think we'll work on that next
Sorry.
month.
Okay.
Okay, let's do the grant. There was a grant request from the Co-op Family Center. We have a guest joining,
Oh, we do.
Erica. Do you want to move over as a panelist?
Oh,
Hi, Erica.
Where is Make sure.
Can you hear us, Erica? Been waiting for a long time.
He's-
I know, right?
Can you hear
me? Hi.
So I think, Erica, if you want to take 1 to 2 minutes to just explain, the request and what the funds would be used for, and then the commission can ask questions, and then they'll take a vote. So-
Good. Yep. Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. Yeah, I'm the development coordinator at the Co-op Family Center. We're a nonprofit childcare center, primarily serving UO student families. And we are, our project is renovating our play yards that serve our kiddos from, ages 1 to about 5th grade. So we have a designated area for younger kids and bigger kids, but our project is kind of a 4-phase approach, and we're wanting funding support for I'd say phases 2 to 4. Next week is phase 1 of United Way Days of Caring is going to help. Volunteers are going to help us with deconstruction of some unsafe materials that we are going to repurpose for other uses. But phases 2 to 4, working with landscape architect to design, and then they'll help us out with getting bids and just get permitting and all the stuff that we are not experts on, but addressing some longstanding issues like flooding and drainage issues that so I'm new to the co-op in this capacity, but as far as I know, the drainage and flooding issue has been 20-year issue of trying to find solutions, and then just with erosion and different factors of the location have been an issue. So it's made the play areas unsafe for our kiddos. So we're wanting to work with a landscape architect to have this design be something that's low maintenance, but also a long-term solution to address the drainage issues, but also be something that aligns with our philosophy of one of the philosophy models is that using the learning environment as the third teacher and being more intentional with the play yards. But this funding would directly support our goals of addressing the flooding and drainage issues with more sustainable design elements like a rain garden and planting more like native plants to be more intentional with our design.
Thank you. Okay, so do we have any questions?
Is the money to pay for the landscape architect, or what is it?
I figured if we just aligning with this commission's values and goals, I thought it'd be more, we'd set this funding for I'm open to feedback of, but aligning it more with like actual native plants and like sustainable practices of a rain garden, or if there's like something specific about design. The contract or the landscape architect design team that we're working with is out of Portland, called Learning Landscapes. And so they, by design or like by their mission is sustainable practices, but I don't know if that was like specific enough to the commission and what you all would be thinking, but I'm more than happy to get specific or general with how you would want to support us.
Does that answer your question now?
Yeah, if you want to use. it
So
for-
obviously those $1,000 isn't enough for this whole project.
Sure.
So how does this piece fit in and what happens? Do you have all the money for the rest of the project or how does this fit? What
Yeah,
happens?
so
if you-
yeah, so I guess yeah, I guess to address the funding, like overall, I'm in the early stages of grant writing so we have projected like what we would need to apply for and what I have a general plan of what grants were in process of pending application and approval. If we did not get the full funding, but we did get this $1,000, I would envision we would still keep it for addressing the flooding issue and having a more sustainable solution, because right now what we have is not. And when I talked to the landscape architect earlier this week, she made it sound that that part would be a lot pretty much the easier part of the whole renovation. And so I would imagine that we could still put the $1,000 to use, even if we can't do the full project.
Do we have,
Oh, if there are other questions, I had a question for Danielle.
I don't think there are any.
Okay.
Well, it might be some, but what is the estimated construction timeline? If you're still in early stages of fundraising?
Yeah, so when I talked to the landscape architect, so phase 1 is like the deconstruction that would start next week and it'd pretty much be done next week too. Just because we've gotten a lot of support from the volunteers. But then the design and planning and bid phase would go from October to March, and then construction would happen securing contractor, getting everything started would be March. And I gave us enough room to say ending in September, but hopefully, just leaving room for life things. External factors that we can't control.
Lexi, did you have another question?
Well, it's not a question exactly. I was trying to figure this out a little bit and I pulled up our bylaws and it says we can financially support events.
Right.
But I'm not clear that this is like, it's $250 for events in which commissioners are not actively involved, up to $1,000 for events in which commissioners will be actively involved, and it defines what active involvement means with an event. But that's my question is like, is this even possible in this context?
I would say that was my question
Yeah.
too, which is what is our total funding for this? And what are the guidelines on what the specific purposes for these funds are? Because my vibe with them is that they were always more outward community facing as opposed to support for specific.
Infrastructure project.
I don't have the guidelines in front of me.
Well, there's a little bit of it in the intro to the.
Yeah, there's a more
There's
formal
those.
document,
Yeah.
because
If that's what you're
I
talking about.
had that wonder too, and I went back and looked and, well, this is not what I'm looking for. It's like the guidelines for the grant. In the first paragraph.
So section 3 of the bylaws, is that it? Commission may
No,
endorse and
it's here.
provide recommendations to staff and then it provides.
Green, so it's doing the Mobility Commission's activities and purposes are to advise and provide support on sustain green building design and infrastructure.
Well, no, but the,
So,
for the.
yeah, no, this
Right.
says guidelines for community requests for support.
Okay.
And then, so. That made me, design and infrastructure, and then in terms of. Who it can support in terms of like public versus, more narrow. The purpose of a grant is to secure a benefit for persons or entities such as a class of clients receiving services, a targeted segment of the community or the community at large.
Okay, so that seems,
That was how I had read it, or that's what's written.
or did you have another related question?
My first question was, what is our total amount of, like, what's our budget for these kinds of requests? And then also, if that is how we're gonna interpret it, we should probably rewrite the language on the request for support, because that is very specific to events. And requires follow-up reporting to the commission within 30 days. And so with a project like this, we would need some sort of different methodology for follow-up. And then my first question was, how much money do we have overall?
To answer that, from what I understand, and Ian, correct me if I'm wrong, $5,000 was originally allotted to the commission for these purposes. There's $2,000 left. Typically, the commission makes the allotments in $1,000 amounts. So that's the current status of it.
And we're not putting any new money into that. It's just, we've got the 2,000.
Ian, do you want to speak to that?
So the initial allotment from council was $5,000. What I have typically done when I've done budgeting every year is I basically just roll that over and starting from a $5,000 threshold for every fiscal. But I think in total, since this green fund was created, I think $3,000 have been allocated and it's been in place year, 4 years, 5 years. It's been a while, but it's been in place now.
I would just wonder if you could, maybe commit to putting out like a mailer to all the families about rain gardens and their benefits to the environment, or if there could be a sign or somewhere where this rain garden that's gonna be installed just have a larger reach, or maybe we're already gonna do that, but I think if we knew that you were gonna do that, that would have us know that the money is gonna reach more people, more education.
Yeah, totally. And I can speak to, we have a garden committee who is comprised of teachers and families. And so I was hoping to get their, we have a newsletter, monthly newsletter that goes out to our co-op families. And so I was hoping to tie in, like, from their perspective of being able to speak to their expertise of how this benefits, not just like short-term, but long-term. And our location too is within UO student housing apartment complex. And so it's a very central, like, visible area. And so I was also envisioning being able to, I don't know, some way show to the wider community what it was, not just to the students or students who go to a co-op, but be able to show to the families who drive through Spencer View and see, like, what the change is and why the change is important. We will lead by example, I guess.
I just want to note that we are running a little bit over and we did skip our appointment of the ETAC.
Sorry, I switched to that.
Yeah, oh, okay.
Because I knew she was waiting.
Okay, yeah, okay.
So we.
Do we have any
Can we
quick,
bump it by 10 minutes? We could make. a
yeah, we
motion
might have to vote
extend.
for,
I just like to say, I agree with that idea, or a signage, or I was thinking even an event that announces it, that people could, just some way of helping to get the word out about it further.
we have 2 other quick comments here.
Okay, appreciate your time and coming here. I actually think it might make the most sense to come back on this one so that we have a little time to consider what our bylaws allow us to do, take a closer look at that, and allow you on your end, I'm looking at the camera, but your face is over there, sorry, allow you on your end to build in some kind of an event that can have a commissioner attend, and then you can have an event on rain gardens, for example, that has sustainability commissioner presence, and then it fits clearly. But it might, I would suggest it might make the most sense to pivot that way.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
Would you just resubmit a request or modify it and bring it back? And then
Do you need a vote, and maybe we can provide feedback after we've had that discussion a little bit?
Yeah, that was totally just riffing, so that's nothing official right
we
there.
would need to be voting on that tonight unless we want to postpone that vote. is it going to really? Is it going to impact your project if we don't vote on this currently and wait like a month?
No, you're good.
Okay,
So what's the action that needs to happen?
it sounds like,
To have a bylaws discussion.
yeah, it sounds like the clarity of the funding source, so maybe we need to discuss that, yeah. Is that, or do we have to?
The motion to defer the vote. or
Okay.
something like that.
I move that we defer this vote
Second.
next month.
Okay, all in favor of deferring the vote?
I would also like to move that we extend our meeting by 10 minutes.
Yes, second, all in favor of extending the meeting 10 minutes?
Thank you.
It looks like, okay,
Thank you, Erica.
thank you.
Yeah.
you very much.
Alright, bye.
Okay. That ended up being, oh,
Just
yes,
say, she hired a Portland landscape architect, or they have, or thinking about it. There's a local landscape architect, woman architect, who's local, who specializes in playgrounds and stuff like that. Who's local, it would make sense, you know, to me, like,
so I wonder.
if they're not, but that has nothing,
Okay.
it's just a suggestion to give there. So.
I mean, you could always probably give that, communicate that information to her if she's reassessing.
Yeah, so.
Okay, so now we're going to move up to appointing our Envision Eugene Technical Advisory Committee representative. We've had two people, are you leading this? Sorry.
No.
Okay, we've had two people express interest in being this appointee, Alexi and Courtney. Is there anyone else who's interested in this?
Maybe this is where.
Okay,
If so, want to.
I would love to hear just a couple, like a minute or two of like explanation of like why you wanna be on this.
Maybe.
Is that okay?
Could one of you two explain what the ETAC is for everyone, just
Yeah.
in the short run?
Gotta print out, where is it? Here it is. I'm just gonna read it. I'm read it here. The Envision Eugene Technical Advisory Committee plays a key role in Envision Eugene implementation projects. These projects currently include the Growth Monitoring Program and UGB analysis, and previously included urban reserves planning. The ETAC will review technical information used to inform policy decisions, provide feedback to staff on technical related issues, and maintain institutional memory regarding assumptions and analysis related to long-term growth management related efforts.
And I'm on ETAC. It's one of the other committees that assigned me. It is a lot of very technical information. It's looking at, for example, the city has a growth monitoring report that looks at density, looks at housing production. And so a lot of it is looking at the less sort of the policies and more how are we measuring things, how are we reporting things, especially as we get into things where the methodology for how we do buildable lands inventory is changing because of the state and the upcoming topics surrounding Eugene's growth. There's gonna be, it's a lot of that work. So, you know, we're having conversation about how we measure and talk about density. Is the next meeting, which is in October. It meets twice a month technically. They're pretty much all virtual. However, I would say that the staff working on that committee make good use of our time. And so they will cancel the meetings if there isn't something specific they have to discuss with us. So what I found is that it tends to be a little, you know, we might go 2 or 3 months without meeting, and then we meet twice 1 month, and then we don't see each other for another month, and then we meet twice the next. So it's technically a 2 meeting a month commitment, but it's rarely actually that much.
Do we want to go into what the role of the appointee is from the Sustainability Commission on a committee, or is it
I don't think
just
that's what
reporting
this
back? Okay,
I think it's representing, yeah, it's representing priorities as well.
and then do they report back?
I don't think there's a formal like,
Well, just on our agenda item, and we get reports from commissioners, that's what Dennis used to
Yeah.
do.
I think Dennis did once or twice.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
So, do we wanna hear from you two briefly about why you wanna be on it?
Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so, my background is in land use, so as a start, there's a certain level of, draw where I lean towards some of that wonkiness, because there is comfort in that space. I think it's a critically important committee, no matter who's on it, for the sustainability committee, because where long-range planning can be very big and lofty, the technical refinement part, the ETAC part, is where you're really understanding if implementation, how you're implementing it to make it work. And I do think that's a lot of times where sustainability starts to come in at the local level. Like, is it working? Are people adopting it? Are they can they respond to this way we're implementing? Can you measure it? And so if we're not hitting our sustainability goals, we're not getting them into that implementation phase or not providing that lens, then how do we know, like, if we're moving the needle? I do think in land use, it's happening at this kind of ETAC level of implementation and feedback, policy feedback, but yeah, and so at the time, I think when we talked about it, we didn't know if we had another commissioner interested. So I'm open for it, but okay. It's kind of, if you're super energized.
Yeah, well, sure, so, why am I interested?
I hadn't prepared like a.
Oh, no.
Sorry. Sorry to put you-
I didn't either. So I mean, I think that the Envision Eugene, the ETAC oversees that comprehensive plan, or has to do with the employment, what am I saying? The evaluation and details of that comprehensive plan, that has to do with Eugene's growth, so the urban growth boundary and the urban reserves and what land, vacant places can be developed. That touches all this stuff. It has to do with street trees, and it has to do with sidewalks, and it has to do with transportation, which is where most of our greenhouse gas comes from. And I like both the methodology wonky side of how we measure this stuff and how we characterize these and get into, here's a plan, here's the steps that allow us to measure how we're getting to that. That's can't say it's like exciting fun, but I find it engaging. And then also, but I also think that there's, like you're saying, Courtney, there's value in someone from this commission being at that table to bring these 8 or 10 topics we're gonna talk about and any progress we're coming here, to bring some of that framing on long-term sustainability priorities across Eugene to the venue where those decisions and measurement frameworks and stuff around long-term growth are housed. So that's my interest, is to try to bridge that gap.
Okay. All right,
Now
so.
do rock, paper, scissors.
Okay, so we'll just take a vote.
So it might be nice to take some kind of secret vote, like
We
maybe.
can't do
Courtney,
that.
We can't do any.
No,
There's
I
no.
checked with the CMO, all votes have to be like.
Everything's,
recorded.
okay,
We don't take these things personal.
okay, sounds good.
So all in favor of
Who wants
Alexi
to
being our ETAC representative? Oh,
Are you?
all in favor of Alexi being our ETAC representative, please raise your hand. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Are these 2 abstaining from the vote?
You can vote.
Okay.
Yeah, you can vote.
Sure,
You can vote.
You can vote.
Stop, I'm taking
Yeah,
back.
yeah.
All in favor of Courtney being our ETAC representative? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Oh, gosh, it's 4-4.
Did you vote?
I did.
Okay.
Did anyone abstain from the vote?
I abstain.
Okay.
I don't,
Wait,
Yeah.
so
I
did
know,
I'm new here, so.
Okay,
I'm
so
not
what was
taking-
the?
Try that again. All in favor of Alexi being our ETAC representative? 4, 5.
Yeah,
Okay,
I was
there you
there
go.
before.
5-4.
There you go. Okay, cool.
Yeah, I can.
For the record, I didn't vote for you because you're vice chair,
Oh, there's that.
and I thought that would be a lot. But that's just,
Oh, that's, we got.
just wanted to throw that out there. Sorry, I also thought you would be good. I just wanted-
I think you voted-
I've been a blind.
Okay, okay, thank you.
Luckily, we have Mitra to do all the work. The vice chair shouldn't have to do very much, right?
Okay, thank you all for your patience. We literally have 2 minutes and we have staff, council staff and commissioner updates, which is supposed to take 5 minutes. What do we got? Can we talk really fast here?
Let our counselor go first.
Yes.
We've been talking about a lot of things that are like city manager recruitment and things like that, which are less directly relevant to this committee. The one thing I will put out there is that we also just got back from break, so we haven't really didn't do much during August. The one thing that did happen is there was a work session poll, which is when counselors say, I would like to talk about this thing, and then we all say whether we want to talk about it too. That did pass, and it was for a right-of-way ordinance for utility permitting. So right-of-way ordinance for utility permitting, so that is probably gonna be a topic that's gonna come up at council. It has to do with the manner in which we regulate utilities and ripping up the street to fix electricity or get natural gas lines and things like that. And so that's gonna be a topic that will be discussed at council that touches on some of the stuff this committee.
Definitely.
I don't know when though, we haven't scheduled it yet, it's
That seems like.
someday.
Sometime this year.
I don't know, I've seen work session polls hang out for like 2-3 years,
Yeah.
but
Okay.
I get the impression it's gonna be sometime within the next year.
Interesting. In the wonky way.
Other,
We will be going to city council on October 15th.
October?
Yes, October 15th, our program will be to talk about, PAP 2.0 update and progress and impact. So if you'd like to watch that session, I encourage you to tune in.
What's the plan presentation?
The work plan presentation from the commission is happening November 19th.
At noon.
Yes,
And just, yeah, I'm gonna be out of town, so.
Alexi's gonna go.
Alexi's gonna- It happened.
Virtual.
Okay.
Is that all of the updates?
Can I just make one? Cause staff, no, come on. No,
Technically,
no, all right.
technically, we'd have to motion to extend it.
Sunday, this Sunday.
She's doing it anyway.
Sunday, 12:30 to 3 PM at Campbell Community Center. It's a big celebration of solar energy.
That's
Sunday.
Fix it there, so, yeah.
Sorry.
It's okay.
We didn't set it.
Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate all of